So talking more about the load cell pedal then, Hunter, just explain to us what the main benefits would be for somebody that's not used any load cells before.
Well, I'm sure you can attest to it that it just feels like a more natural brake feel that you would feel in like a car or whatever you would drive on track. You just get more data inputs from a load cell to your sim of choice by ACC, Assetto, Corsa, iRacing, whatever. And that leads to a smoother and more consistent braking feel.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I'll sort of hold my hands up and say I was quite surprised with the fact that even with a basic load cell, you can sort of feel that the car doesn't lock up as much. It's not so stabby.
Yep. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the halfway point of the SimGrid Academy Cup, powered by Trackworks in association with Coach Dave Academy and Thrustmaster. It's David Christie here tonight with you, and Luke Rogers joining me as well. Luke, good evening. Welcome back, buddy. Are you feeling better?
Yeah, I was a little bit ill last week, so I wasn't able to come, and conveniently allowed me to miss the track, I don't lie. So not the end of the world, but I heard it was a very good race. I'm having a rational dislike for that track, but now we're at a track that I do like, especially in these cars. It's a track which I think it sort of gets a bad rep for its F1 races, right? The F1 races are never incredible around here, but the GT cars, especially the Cup cars, owing to the high speed and the awkward braking zones that this track has throughout, it makes for a really good race. So I'm quite excited for tonight and see what these guys can do.
Well, if you haven't guessed already, we are off to sunny Spain tonight, circuit to Barcelona Catalunya, and it's 2.892 miles. Track is the host for tonight's third round of the SimGrid Academy Cup. And with just 2 rounds after this left to go, we are in an amazing standing for tonight's race. We have not 1, not 2, but 3 drivers joint at the hip at the top of the tables. Niels van der Kakelt, Amir Hosseini and Joe McCauley all absolutely even Stevens on 80 points right now. And that is not to discount any of the rest of the drivers that are in the leaderboard so far. It's been an amazing first couple of races. Of course, we started off the season 2 weeks ago at Silverstone. We then went last week to Zandvoort, and then this week we are at Barcelona. So with the time at 7:38, let us have a quick guide round the track in association with the Trackworks foot cam, and we will take you through this just under 3 mile course here at Barcelona.
Obviously, starting on the front stretch here, we head down to turn 1, the first chicane on the track. We're braking just before the 100-meter mark, down to about second gear. Yeah, we're going to ride the curb on the inside, just about touch the curb on the left here, and then run wide on the exit. Hug the inside curb once again, and you want to get as much exit speed as possible here for the little straight at the end. You can run all the way to the left. You can even go off track a little bit if you want to, but we're not going to this time. Braking just before the bridge up ahead here. Let's slam on the brakes down to about second gear. Again, hug the curb, run wide on the exit to maximize your exit speed, and then come back inside and get towards that right-hand side of the track quick, because you've got this downhill off-hander left-hand hairpin, which is such an awkward corner in pretty much every car. Again, curb on the exit, you can use that thing. You can use it to get a bit of extra exit speed, because once again you have a little straight. Then this left-hander, again, braking just before the curb. You want to miss that curb on the inside because it'll unsettle your car, and then run wide on the curb on the exit. One of the most awkward corners on the track next in the Cup car. You're going to brake just a little bit, but stay in fourth gear and stay off that inside curb, because it will propel your car to the left-hand side and into that gravel trap. Now into the back stretch. Got a bit of a break here before the final sector. Braking very early for this really tight left-hander. You want to touch this curb to help bring the car around. You don't want to run too wide on the exit, because that yellow sausage curb will ruin your throttle acceleration. And now another really awkward corner here. Second gear, you want to ride the throttle throughout to keep that car turning. You don't want to come wide on the exit, because you'll lose time by making the corner bigger. Again, miss that inside curb so you don't bounce off it. And once again, 2 more corners where you do not want to touch those big curbs. Don't touch the curb on the exit either. You can sometimes just about touch it to help settle the car, but you really want to be careful on those big curbs. The final turn now, run wide on the exit, and it's a straight line to the finish.
Excellently done. Thank you very much there, Luke. And I was loving that foot cam there from Trackworks there. We saw our very own Josh Martin from Coach Dave Academy there showing us how it's done. And just before we get to have a chat with Hunter from Trackworks, Luke, one thing that I really noticed from Josh's onboard video was the way that he was using the brake a lot less than he was using the accelerator, almost using the throttle to help turn the back end of that car around.
Yeah, I think it's a very consistent thing in these cars that the brake is quite scary, because obviously no ABS compared to the normal GT3 cars, so it's very easy to lock your brakes, and when that happens you're just going to get a lot of understeer. So sometimes you want to exit the corner a little bit slower just so you can stay on the throttle, because that will help your car turn, right? You're essentially like losing the rear end to get the car to turn a little bit and drifting almost. So you just, especially in this Cup car with the lack of grip it has, you want to use what mechanical grip you have to get that car turning, and that's why you can just use that throttle to push it around.
Yep, some great points there, Luke. And we are very fortunate tonight because we have Luke, we've got Hunter from Trackworks able to join us tonight for a very quick chat about the series partnership and about the product in general. We see the branding all the time, and as if by magic, Hunter, a very, very good evening to yourself.
Hey guys, how's it going?
We are both very, very well. Firstly, a huge congratulations on partnering up with the SimGrid for the championship. Tell us a little bit about the products from Trackworks and the difference they can make to our drivers.
So, as you see, we're an authorized Thrustmaster dealer, and we take a lot of pride in that. We realize that we can't serve everybody around the world, but we like to do that with our brake mod. And something we'd had, our initial design for it was just to make something that was more forgiving. It doesn't always have to be a max out load cell kind of feel, just something that feels progressive and smooth, and something you can really tell what you're doing with your brake.
Now, for the average sim racer, Hunter, what's the noticeable difference that using your mod would bring to them as a driver?
I would just say consistency, to be honest. That was just our main goal. Consistency and just a more natural pedal feel.
Because obviously brake mods aren't anything new to the sim racing community. I remember my first set of pedals. I think I ended up having a squash ball in the back of it just to give some extra push. But with your brake mods, you've got 3 different stiffness levels, don't you?
Yeah, we do. So we kind of try to design something for everybody. So I have a friend that loves to do track days, but he doesn't have room in his house for a cockpit, so he just does what everybody starts out doing. It's attached to his desk. But what works for him as a mod is our 2 softer mods, and then what we'd like to do with that 3-pack as well. If anybody ever upgrades, they always have a mod that they can use.
So, Hunter, what we'd really need to know is when can we expect to see you as a wild card here in the SimGrid Academy Cup?
Well, hopefully next week we can see about that.
We'll get you in for Spa, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't love Spa?
Looking forward to tonight at Barcelona. It's a pretty crazy championship that we've had. 3 drivers tied at the top with 80 points. Yeah. It's just been brilliant so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's been great racing. It's been fun to watch. Obviously, it's middle of the day, so I put it on in the background and I watch what I can. But yeah, it's been a great series so far, and I'm looking forward to the next few rounds here.
So, Hunter, I know the URL for the website, but I want to hear your awesome accent. Tell everyone at home where they can get your products.
Yeah, of course. You can get it at trackworks.ca, and then look under our simulation tab.
Excellent stuff. So head over trackworks.ca, click on the simulation button. That's exactly where I am right now, and probably get some international shipping all the way to Scotland. Hunter, thank you so much from Trackworks. Have a fantastic night, and we'll speak to you again very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, and let's hope for a good race.
Here's hoping. Thank you very much. Right, there we go then, Hunter from Trackworks, and awesome to get a little chat with him. Luke, welcome back, buddy. I'm going to apologise for that track guide because yours truly was watching the YouTube feed instead of watching the actual live feed. So I was about 10 seconds behind you there. So you expertly jumped straight in and took that one off there. Let's talk a little bit about the track, because obviously the final chicane at turns 14 and 15, it's so easy to completely unsettle the car there. I was having a go at it this afternoon in the Cup car, and these guys and girls have got a real challenge on their hand tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm part of quite a large group that wishes we had the old track still. But whilst we're here, whilst we have that chicane, it is probably the hardest part of this track to get right. You can lose so much time. If you just touch one of those big curbs. You basically have 4 corners in a row where there is a curb that will lose you 3-4 tenths if you touch it. If you even look at it, it can hurt. So you have to be so careful through there. But what you don't want to do is be so careful that you slow down too much, and then you just lose time because you're not at the maximum speed. So that kind of area is all about getting consistently through there. And if we're looking at the track conditions, it's raining. Oh dear! Consistency is not going to be easy.
Yeah, this is as a Scotsman, I'm going to say I'm okay with this weather. I'm used to this sort of weather. However, the sunny shores of Spain might not look too good as Gabriel Cimararo does a little bit of teriyaki Tokyo drift there. As I'm not sure I've seen a 991 Cup car sideways round turn number 3 there, but there we go. Very difficult conditions, Luke, and this is going to throw another spanner into the works.
And especially a track like Catalunya, it is a track where I wish it rained more often in the F1 races and also the GT and prototype stuff, because it is a track that is really fun in the wet. There's a lot of high-speed corners, which just makes it all about confidence, makes it all about trusting yourself and your car. There's also those big braking zones that are very difficult to achieve in the wet. So it's a really fun track in the wet, and I think if we get a wet race, we're going to be in for a treat.
Let's have a look at our contenders tonight then. As we said numerous times, 3 at the top: Niels van der Kakelt, Amir Hosseini and Joe McCauley. Now, Joe McCauley, for me, is Mr. Consistent because he's had 2 second places. Amir Hosseini won the opening round at Silverstone and then came in 3rd place at Zandvoort. Niels van der Kakelt was just the polar opposite of that. And I look at the rest of the drivers in the top 10, and there really isn't that much consistency.
I remember with obviously Samir, we saw him have that. He forgot to put fuel in round 1, and he was actually leading the race by quite a comfortable margin. And had to come into the pits whilst everyone else, went along without pitting. So he's a driver that perhaps isn't quite where he should be in terms of the leaderboard, but he didn't have a great race at Zandvoort. He is, I think, 6th or 7th in the leaderboard now, off the top of my head. So he's not that far behind, but he's a driver that could and probably should be fighting those top 3. But it's interesting to me that Joe McCauley's been twice the bridesmaid, never the bride in this season. He's come 2nd twice. The other 2 have obviously come 1st and 3rd each. I want to see him progress and get a win, because I don't think it's possible to win this championship without a win. It tends to be the case in. I think if you look at the Super Cup in real life, right, the sort of the top 5 are very consistently the same drivers, because everyone is in the same equipment. So if you're just a better driver, you're always going to be doing better. That sounds very obvious to say, but sometimes you get. I always like to compare it to F1 with pretty much every series, because it is the series everyone knows. In that, if you look at sort of the Ferrari this year, where it's really good in terms of downforce, but it's got no straight line speed. So those smaller tracks it does quite well. And then you go to something like maybe the McLaren, it's not got that much downforce. So sometimes the drivers can't really do that much with the equipment they have. But in this, in a series where literally everyone is in the same car, it is purely down to the driver, and that's why we see that consistency at the top. So I want to see Joe progress and get that win, because I don't see how he can beat Hosseini and Van der Kokel without one.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point indeed. He's going to be consistent on the points, but again, to be able to be in a position worth fighting, I think you're absolutely spot on. He's going to have to take that win. One man who had a bit of an awkward time last time out, who we know has got a lot of pace and is very popular in the chat, we've got to say hello to the Russians tonight, is of course Igor Ogorodnikov. And I personally, I've got a lot of time for Igor and his driving style. He's a very, very, oh my goodness me, as we see a car into the wall there after the final turn. We'll have to get an idea on who needs some medical attention after that one. But back to Igor Ogorodnikov, 2nd place there, 151, that'll be a 151.2. He was 6th at Silverstone, but 12th at Zandvoort. But he does have the pace to make him a real danger to the top 5.
I mean, you look through this grid and you compare to the World Cup, to the Sprint Cup and the Endurance Cups that SimGrid runs, and you see drivers that are down below the top 20 that you'd usually expect to see at the front of those kind of fields. It's such a tightly packed field in terms of the talent across it, and so even those drivers, I look at Spears, right? He's a great example of a driver that is pretty consistently near the front in the GT3 series we have, and he's not quite got there yet in the Academy Cup. He's been in and about the top, but he's just never quite progressed that far. Just got on the curb. He was drifting all the way through the corner and just gets projected into that inside wall. It's something I think we're going to see a lot, and if it's raining during the race, that kind of corner, those kind of curbs that you have to run on, that even in the wet that you get forced on, it's going to cause crashes like that. But going back to Spears, I think De Havilland is another example. Prendergast is someone we've seen at the front quite a lot. All those drivers are struggling to get into the top 10 in this field, which to me is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it certainly is. Another name that I can see down the list there is, I believe that's David Brivio, who is one of the developers at Kunos. I remember him from last week. So great to see him back, and if anyone knows the sim inside out, it should be him, you would think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty consistently I think we see with the Kunos guys, they all seem to love racing on their own sim, which I guess it's like when you see now they say with barbers, where you always go to the barber that has a bad haircut, because they always have to go somewhere else, so they must be the ones that they're good. But in this, you always want to go to the sim where the people that make the sim actually enjoy racing it, because there's usually a sign, when you've got people that are already passionate about sim racing, if they're designing a sim that they enjoy, it's probably a pretty good sim.
Well, that's just it, and I think that just goes to prove that a lot of the guys and girls over at Kunos are just absolute petrol heads, and when they're not you've got to think about this as well, in the fact that they spend their days, heavy into 3D design programs, into sound design programs, into whatever. You think the last thing they want to do is come on the thing that they've spent so much time on, and yet here they are. It's fantastic stuff. So great to see that. Currently watching 27th place, that is Alexis Pirelli in the NCL Motorsports machine, the number 19, gingerly making his way around the track here at Catalunya. Igor Ogorodnikov currently in 5th place as well, and some big names outside the top 10. Kieran Prendergast, I would have expected to see up in the top 10 as well. We've got, let's have a look there, Alexander Karsten. Again, I was expecting to see him up in the top 10. But there's Killian Ryan Meenan in the number 25 machine. He's up in the 7th place, just going at the pits just now. He's definitely going to be one to watch as well. But again, it looks like all of our top 3 title contenders at the moment, I have to say at the moment, because we're only halfway into the season, this could change any which way. But Niels van der Kekkel up in the top 5. Amir Hosseini, I haven't seen where he is at the moment.
They're all within half a tenth at the front of the field, so it's very close at the front. And Samir's joined them. I think the 4 drivers that we sort of expected to be in the top 4 coming into this qualifying session here have the 3 guys currently tied for first in the Academy Cup, and Samir, who I think if it wasn't for that issue he had at Silverstone, probably would be quite close to them right now. So I expect we're going to see those 4 battle it out, and given the fact that within half a tenth right now, and they should only improve as the track evolves a little bit, as people are starting to make that dry line, which really we're not actually seeing that much of right now. I mean, the track's sort of damp, it's not really wet, so there isn't really a wet, there's not really standing puddles and water on the track that needs to be cleared. So right now, I think the track might actually be getting slower. You see, it's definitely getting slippery.
Luca Wedler just decided to go a little bit of ballroom dancing on the exit of turn 1 there.
Yeah, but I think the more it rains during this session, because the track's not already wet, it's going to be very hard for drivers to improve now, because the track is going to get wetter. It's not going to get, as long as it's still raining, it's not going to get any drier, and there isn't any standing water that needs to be cleared by the cars. So if anyone improves within the next 5 minutes, I'm going to be mightily impressed.
I can't believe Joe McCauley is just 3/1000ths of a second off of pole position there, just behind Samir Ibrahimi. Samir having an absolute race to forget in round 1, finishing P18 and undoing that damage in sixth place.
Yeah, and he just needs to iron out some mistakes, I think, because he is a driver that always has that pace. Right? In every series that Sim Grid runs, Samir is right at the front. I think he's top man. Isn't he leading in the World Cup right now? I'm pretty sure he is. He's part of that leading team, or at least he's in one of the top 3 for sure. So he's a driver that we expect to be at the front, and obviously Silverstone was owing to that, forgetting to put race fuel in the car. So he actually had the pace probably to win the whole thing. So without that mistake, I think he'd be very. He might be a little bit behind, a couple of points behind, owing to that 6th place at Zandvoort. You'd expect that. If he had somehow won at Silverstone and was coming into this race and leading it, then he could have taken the championship lead off this race. So it's going to be unfortunate. But
wow!
Was that Igor Rodnikov going 6/10 faster?
Yeah, let's if we can cut back to the leader. Yeah, 6/10 faster for Igor Ogorodnikov. Where the heck did that one come from? That was right out of the bag and right at the last gasp as well, with 4 minutes left to go. And I kind of want to switch over to YouTube chat to see the reaction from there.
I thought the track was going to get slower. He's just pulled that out of the bag and put himself on pole by a mile. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to catch that right now.
Oh, that was just absurd. We did see Samir Ibrahimi make a faster lap there. In fact, no, we didn't. It was Chris Hook. Look at that. Chris Hook just fires himself up into P3 because Samir has gone faster, because he's now half a second behind Igor. But remember, he was just 4/1000ths of a second ahead of Joe McCauley. So, that's quite a late development here. And we've only got 3 minutes left to go. So, potentially 2 laps left.
And I want to know what Igor did to get a lap that much faster than everyone else, because we saw how close it was. at the front of the field, everyone was within such a tight margin of each other, and then he's just kind of blown them all out of the water. When you look at the gap, him to second place, if you take that gap, it's second down to what, 10th? Yeah, 10th place is the same gap. So it's a pretty ridiculous lap time for him. And I wonder if anyone can catch that. Hosseini goes faster, but he's not quite getting close enough. He's still 3/10 off, which is miles bigger than it was towards the start of the session.
Yeah, that was much closer. 0.339 of a second off the pace lap there, but he'll know where he's picking that time up from and where he's able to push that little bit forward, that little bit faster. Niels van de Kekelt, we cut to just now, number 47, Sidemax Motorworks. He was 2/10 up on his previous time, but look at that, you can see the car swirling under braking as he tries to push for traction. That is going to push him further and further behind, and that is going to banjax his lap there. So our current pole sitter on a 150.193 Igor Ogorodnikov. Can we see us breaking into the 149s in the next 2 minutes?
It's going to be a big challenge, I think. We're seeing cars getting so leery on the track now. There's so much drifting going on. I mean, it is worth pointing out that these cars sometimes actually get faster when you start getting sideways in them. But in the rain, I think it sort of changes a bit, because there's so many situations where getting a little bit sideways puts you out of sort of that dry area of the track and into where it's slippery and where other cars have been running. And it's really now just about identifying which curbs you can use still. Which curbs don't have those pools of water forming that cause the paint to be so slippery, and then using them, because it is a track that normally uses quite a lot of curbing to get your pace, especially on corner exits. And we see with the last turn, that corner exit, the curb there is so dangerous in these conditions. But you see the difference in line there with the 22 and the 41. Now, one car completely avoids that exit curve. The other car goes wide on it and tries to get that extra exit speed, because obviously you can get on the throttle early if you can run wider. But it's just making cars so sideways on throttle, and you're losing time to straights when you're doing that. But it seems they can use that one on the final corner for now, and most people seem to be surviving on it. But I mean, this whole track just looks scary right now if you're a driver.
Yeah, it's frightening on the dry as well in these cars, and I can't imagine what it's like in the wet. I didn't get any chance to practice it in the wet, thinking it was going to be a nice dry day here, obviously with it being Spain. Obviously not. Amir Hosseini is who we're looking at just now in the number 92 machine at the moment, 3/10 down on your current pole sitter, Igor Ogorodnikov, who sits on that throne with a 150.193. 13 seconds left to go in qualifying here for round 3 of the Singrid Academy Cup in association with Trackworks. And he's looking very smooth, and just as I said that, just as those words were about to leave my mouth, there's a little twitch at the back end there from Amir Hosseini. I don't think he's going to see any improvements there. Dominic Golds from the Revolution Sim Racing Blue, number 23 machine, very wide. You can see him going over that pooled water, and he's currently down in 13th place. You can see just how little traction these cars have got. Now that brings me on to the next point, Luke. It's all very well trying to push these cars as hard as you can, but can you imagine trying to overtake in this?
And especially once you get offline, if the pools of water start to form, which if it's still raining as we come to the race, I expect probably will happen. Coming offline and trying to brake in those pools is going to be so difficult, because remember, these cars don't have ABS like you have in the normal GT3s. So in a GT3 you can sometimes say, oh, I don't care about that puddle, I'll just go through it in the braking zone, it's okay. You might lose a little bit of time, but in these cars, if you start aquaplaning in the braking zone, you're going for a spin. So they have to be so careful about where, when, and how they overtake in these conditions.
Yeah, that is a very good point indeed. Just watching Gianluca Gantz actually deciding to pop himself up into third place as we see Joe McCauley going across the line. He improves, but not enough to improve his position. So he goes up into fourth position. But he was going to be hoping that he would have been further up the grid. So qualifying is done and dusted then. Igor Ogorodnikov takes pole position from Amir Hosseini in second place. Row 2 is going to be Gianluca Gantz and Joe McCauley. Row 3 is Samir Ibrahimi and Chris Hook. Niels van der Koek and Killian Ryan Meenan line up on row 4. It's then Alexander Karsten alongside Gabriel Semeraro. David McKell and Dominic Goltz in 11th and 12th. 13th and 14th are Martin Lona and Luca Weidlich. 15th and 16th in row 8 is Luca Taverne. I can never say that name. And it's Tinko van der Tavanari. There we go, right? I've been eating a takeaway for supper tonight, boys. I can't speak. Tinko van der Velde lines up a long hit side on row number 8. Row number 9 with Harry Spears and Zachary Royal. 17th, 18th, 19th and 20th is Manos Gerardis and Kieran Prendergast. There we go. Right, let's see who else we've got.
That's a ridiculous pole time.
Yeah, that is
3 tenths faster in
isn't
these
it?
conditions. We've seen so consistently that this whole field, especially sort of the top 5, top 10, have always been so close. Within tenths. It's normally within about a tenth of the lead, right? And pretty consistently now. Just to put 3 tenths on the rest of the field, it is mightily impressive, and I'm excited to see. What these conditions are like during the race, because it looks like we're probably going to get rain all the way if you look top right. Is it going to stay the same through the whole race? Is it going to get wetter? Is the track going to clear out as all these cars go around together? And whether those drivers can stay consistently fast with the changing conditions. It's going to be really impressive if Ogrodnikov can hold on to the lead ahead of the 4 behind him, who are mightily fast.
It's very, very interesting to see as you see the cars on the grid ready for the start of the race. And oi, Luke, I saw that in YouTube chat. I can very well pronounce some of these names. Emphasis on some. I do apologise to Samir Ibrahimi. Is that better? Ibrahimi?
Ibrahimi, I believe, or Ibrahimi.
Yes, right. Fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter, guys. I've got 3 minutes left to go to learn that pronunciation. In the meantime, let's go and jump to a very short commercial break, and we'll be back with race 3 of the SimGrid Academy Cup.
So talking more about the load cell pedal then, Hunter, just explain to us what the main benefits would be for somebody that's not used any load cells before.
Well, I'm sure you can attest to it that it just feels like a more natural brake feel that you would feel in like a car or whatever you would drive on track. You just get more data inputs from a load cell to your sim of choice by ACC, Assetto, Corsa, iRacing, whatever. And that leads to a smoother and more consistent braking feel.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I'll sort of hold my hands up and say I was quite surprised with the fact that even with a basic load cell, you can sort of feel that the car doesn't lock up as much. It's not so stabby on the brakes. So talking more about the load cell pedal then, Hunter,
So a very warm welcome back then to the SimGrid Academy Cup round 3. David Christie here with Luke Rogers, and we go back trackside then with just 2 and a bit minutes left to go for the race. Luke, I am fairly excited for tonight's race. What about yourself?
I just want to see how bad these conditions get, because these cars are such a challenge in the wet. As has been pointed out in chat, it's traction control, not ABS they have, which is what I meant to say, but I'm an idiot, so I said ABS. But no, they have no traction control. So once those water, the puddles start to form up, they turn into basically boats, and boats with no rudder, no steering. So it's going to be a lot of fun if this track just gets properly wet. Because right now we only have damp, and you can see top right that the conditions are sort of going to stay the same. For those of you who don't know, you have the sort of the in 10 minutes and the in 30 minutes thing in the top right. And when there's that little dash, I believe that means it's going to stay the same. It means
it gets lesser.
Or gets less, yeah. So it might be that we have this transition sort of towards the end of the race where it starts to dry out on the track. And at that point, it's going to be about, can you keep those wet tyres? I mean, if they're on wet tyres, I think some of them might be on dry tyres still, given the lack of puddling on the track. can you keep your tires in window, with the right temperature, or are your tires are going to start to die out? So we might see that sort of ebb and flow in this race, where part of the field, does really well at the start of the race, and part of the field comes back at them at the end.
45 minutes on the clock, and we go green for our green flag lap. And you'll be glad to know, ladies and gentlemen, that I just spent the last 2 minutes learning my pronunciation. So I do have to apologise to Samir Ibrahimi. There we go. See, boys, just rolls off the tongue. And also to Yegor Ogorodnikov. There's no clue, though, that it's a Yegor instead of Igor. But nevertheless, those are two drivers who I'm sure his name I will have to pronounce quite a few times tonight. Luke, let's get back to the action then. Yegor on pole ahead of Amir Hosseini. We haven't seen Yegor in the thick of it this much through the season so far. What do you reckon his chances are tonight?
Well, he's a driver that we know is great in a GT3 car. He's been at the front of the field in all our series for so long. He's a driver that should be towards the front of the field, and he's just not quite been there yet this season. I think he's had a top 10, right? He's had one top 10 finish. But he's just not quite been where maybe we expect. And it seems like maybe the conditions suit him. Maybe he's more used to the wet conditions. But talking of wet, the 22 and 23 cars down in 9th and 13th are the only cars in the field that are on wet tyres. And I think with the conditions, I don't see why you'd go on them, because there's no pools on the track, and there's no standing water. So this tyres are just going to burn up, and it's not going to get any wetter. We're saying that it's going to get drier as we go on, and we have two drivers on wet tyres. So I feel like we're going to see those two fall really far back in this field as the rest of the field slowly gets their tyres in window. Maybe for the first few laps they might be a bit faster. But I think the top of the field have done it right by taking the slicks tonight. But yeah, with Igor, I think he can hang. I think he's going to stay up at the top. We've also got a new got Gantz in third place. There's another driver that's not normally at the front of the field, or at least hasn't been in the first two races this season. So I want to see what those two can do, because around them they've got sort of the staple, the traditional top four, and Chris Hook, who's another driver we know is pretty fast, and Samir, who's another driver that should be in that top battle. So it's going to be a fun fight at the front.
Yeah, that's a great shout on Jan-Luca Gantz, because 10th and 15th is his positions just now as the cars make their way around this last third of the circuit here. On those drivers, on Karsten and Goltz that are on the wet tyres, never mind. I'm not going to describe what I'm saying there. As we see Karsten Goltz on the wet tyres, how quickly do you think those tyres are going to degrade?
The thing with this track is Sector 1 is where all those high-speed corners are that burns up your tyres. So when you're on tyres that don't quite suit the conditions, that's the sector that's going to kill them. So it's literally going to be halfway through the first lap. Those tyres will be out of the window, going to be too hot, going to be burning up, and they're just going to start falling down. So I just don't really get why you'd go on wet tyres in these conditions.
Well, here we go then. 45 minutes are about to get underway of round 3 of the 7th Grade Academy Cup. The cars line up 2 by 2 by 2. Green flag flies, and away we go. We are racing, and it's already a move from the left to the right. I think that was Karsten down there in 9th place there. A big gaggle of cars going down, go first to second to third to fourth. We've already got a battle going on for 3 cars into third place there. That is Macaulay and Gantz around the outside there. Oh, the leader goes wide. Yegor Ogorodnikov goes wide, and all hell is breaking loose right now.
There's a couple cars spinning in the midfield. 2 cars turned around through turns 1 and 2, and everyone else somehow gets through. We were 4, I think 5 wide at some point in the braking zone, and somehow we've only had 2 cars get turned, so no big crash that I was a little bit nervous about. But it seems like for now, this, especially the front of the field, even with Ogorodnikov going wide and all the way back in third and battling almost to fourth now, he's just about held on, and we've just about kept it safe, and somehow Spears is up in first place.
Oh, we've got a spinner, and that's number 49. That is Samir Ibrahimi. He's spun round, gets the car going round again. That's going to drop him down to about 23rd or 24th place there. Back with the leaders then, and oh no, so that it looks like Samir's gone then. Oh, that is hard lines there. Amir Hosseini.
I keep seeing Spears on the top left, thinking he's in the lead, but no, he's actually coming into the pits. I think he was one of the cars that was crashed down in turn 1. So he's had to come back into the pits. But Samir, a driver that we said has the speed to fight at the front of this field, and has just been making mistakes. I don't know if that was a mistake or if he got some help to go around, but once again, good qualifying session coming to nothing for him as he falls to the back of the field. He did make quite a lot of progress in Silverstone, but this is a track where it's very hard to overtake, and especially in these conditions. He's going to really struggle coming back through this field.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that happens there. So, as we said then, it's Amir Hosseini from Igor Ogorodnikov then. So Igor losing that lead early on in that first lap there. It's Gianluca Gans in third place there, and Joe McCauley in fourth. And there's a big melee at that last chicane there. Several cars involved in that.
Yeah, right now, Hosseini's loving that he's got two drivers behind him that are not really in the championship fight. McCauley and Van der Kokel down in fourth and fifth is going to give him a little bit of a gap, but for the person who's just asking chat, he's all the way back of the Bramy is all the way at the back of the field now because he got turned around in the middle sector, and I don't know if he's going to be able to make much progress. That's where you can see him there at 24th place, I believe, is where he is down right now. And having an issue like that at the start of the race is sometimes a little bit worse, I think, than having it sort of halfway through, because there's no gaps between those drivers. So not only do you lose time, but you lose so much track position. You lose so many positions overall. I think he went from 3rd to 24th. So it's going to be such a challenge now for Samir to come back through this field. And once again, like Silverstone, I mean, again, I don't know if it's his fault, but it just seems like it's not his championship or it's not his season, and this one. And coming back to the front of the field, we have three of our top three in the top five, all the way up at the front. But here's turn one, lap one.
The car's come streaming down towards. It'll be very interesting to see what happened, because it did, for the most part, it did look quite clean round that first corner. It wasn't anywhere near the chaos that I was expecting. You can see a couple of cars bunching up there, and that's to be expected. But a huge bit of contact there, trying to rejoin the track, and that was never going to happen from the number 9 there.
Yeah, that was the driver that I think it was Spears, Harry Spears.
Yeah, Harry Spears.
But we saw I think he was trying to avoid that first spin, and it put him out on the wet sort of curbing on the to the outside of turn 1. And there's those big yellow sausage curbs there that I think he hit one of those as well. And at that point, you're just a passenger in your car. You can't really control where it's going, because A, you're on what might as well be an ice rink, and B, you're getting projected off those sausage curbs, which jumps the car. So really unfortunate for Harry to get put out there, and I think he came into the pits and retired with the damage he had from that. So it's an unfortunate one. A driver that we said it has the pace to be near the front of the field, and it's just not quite there. I believe this is Samir's incident. Oh no, someone else getting spun. The 23 car goes around. One of the cars on those wet tyres that we said was an interesting strategy call. It's been made even worse by being turned around and put to the back of the field.
Yeah, that's not the best, you hate to say it, but two little battles going on right now up at the head of the field there. Amir Hosseini leading Igor Ogorodnikov by 0.4 of a second, and Gianluca Gans just ahead of Joe McCauley there. Joe McCauley, I think, substantially closer to that third place than second is the first. This is Samir here. I think he just turned around by himself.
I think one of the red cars might have given him a little bit of a love tap, but I don't know whether he was already spinning before that happened. It looked like he was sliding, and then someone came along and sort of finished the job a little bit. But yeah, it's just unfortunate for a driver that we normally expect to be right at the front of the field to just have two of those incidents. Don't know if here's the better view of it. I think this is going to be Wax. So it's coming down to this downhill corner. Yeah, he definitely gets some help there as the red car dives into the corner a bit too hard. It's such a tough corner, that downhill left-hander, in the wet, because it's slightly off camber, it's downhill. The braking zone, there's no braking marker, so you're guessing, where you need to brake to sort of match the pace you need to go through there. And if you do get the pace wrong, your car just slides. It either understeers or oversteers, depending on which part of the corner you enter too fast and how much you try to turn. So it's such a challenge, especially in these conditions, this corner.
Sorry, my the voice was going all over the place there. As two huge moves being sized up there, both from Igor Ogorodnikov and Amir Hosseini, as well as Gianluca Gans, just ahead of Joe McCauley. Now, the interesting thing is, there we go, there's a side-by-side for third and fourth place there, and that looks like Joe McCauley's going to try and take place from Gianluca Gans. He's done it up the inside there, he's done him. And great move there from Joe McCauley to take that third place. Huge move for the championship, of course.
I'd love to see now if he can make any progress towards the front of the field. We're going to see another incident happening towards the final sector. Is this lap 1? I think this is that little... Oh, we're going to miss it.
Yeah, we're going to jump back because Amir Hosseini is nowhere to be found. Amir Hosseini has went off.
Where is he?
Yeah, so he's down in third. He's just behind Joe McCauley there. Joe McCauley's now up in second. So what had happened with him and Yegor Ogorodnikov?
I have to think that Ogorodnikov's made a move somewhere, and either Hosseini's got spooked or there's been a bit of a love tap there, and it's put him down in third place. I couldn't see him for a second. I thought he
and that was
had a much
that
bigger
Neil van der
instance.
Kukelt there, or was that Jean-Luc Gantz? I saw it's the green car of Jean-Luc Gantz going all sorts of shapes, and it's actually Niels van der Kukelt just behind him, waiting very, very patiently. But the three of them are actually dropping away back for that battle for second place now. So this is just turned on its head within, about 30 seconds. And another interesting fact, actually, remember the comment you were making about the wet tyres? Well, Alexander Karsten has done the fastest lap of the race and was up in 6th place.
Yeah, I was expecting those tyres to burn out, so maybe the track's wetter than we think. And there we go, there's that final sector incident you were talking about on, I believe, lap 1. But we were expecting maybe those tyres were going to overheat, but there must be enough water on the track that is either... he's just about keeping those tyres in the window with that water, or the dry tyres are getting so cold that they can't keep them in the window. It is suggesting that the track is going to get drier as we go, so it's possible given the fact that you don't make pit stops. Pit stops aren't a thing we do in these 45-minute races because all these cars can make it on one stint. Maybe some of these guys have set their tyres up more towards the end of the race, brought the pressures down a little bit, so that as the track dries out, the tyres will heat up a little bit better. So it's possible that all those dry tyres are so cold that even the overheated wet tyres are doing better.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. One thing that I haven't thought about is the fact that Yegor Ogorodnikov in the leads, that is going to boost his championship hopes significantly and potentially bring him back into touching distance of your championship leaders. Let's have a look here. This is down the inside there, and it's contact from Yegor Ogorodnikov. Very, very slight contact there, I've got to add, but contact nonetheless.
And once again, it's that downhill left-hand hairpin that is causing the incidents. I think that's going to be a consistent theme through this race as the conditions change, because it is a corner where there is no braking zone. There is absolutely no braking marker. What is going on in the midfield? 6 cars
wide in a hairpin. That's fine. This is
normal.
what we expect with the SimGrid guys. Tail-to-tail racing. This is awesome. And I've got to be honest, right? We'll ignore that bit. But in any racing sim, right, when have you ever seen 6 drivers being able to drive like that side by side and not absolutely destroy each other?
I think the only example I can think of is some kind of NASCAR race, one of the super speedways where they occasionally go 5 or 6 wide. But in a road race like this is absolutely absurd to see that, and for the most part keeping it fairly safe. But it looks like we're a moment away from a massive crash, and we're just about staying away from it.
I think that was Oliver Vogt that was looking like he was trying to send Samir Ibrahimi into a different postcode there.
Those cars look so
I'm hearing the producer's words that I never want to hear in my ear. Crash, and we've got a 3-car crash going on. That's at the back of the field, I believe. That was the...
just like I said,
yeah, so hard lines at the back of the field though, but back to the front, and have a look here. Yegor Ogorodnikov then, that gap from Joe McCauley, 2.6 seconds as we are looking at Gianluca Gantz there in the Gadi Racing. Now, we have not really seen Gianluca this season so far, and this is a spirited performance from him.
Yeah, it's quite a big surprise, I think is the best way to put it. He's a driver that has been sort of around the midfield so far this season. He's doing okay. I mean, he's in 9th place, but he's only had 1 top 10, which was 10th place, and then a 15th at Zandvoort. So it's a bit of a surprise to see him this far up the leaderboard, but it's a welcome surprise, and I want to see if he can hold on to it. It definitely looks like he has the pace to keep up with these guys at the front so far, bar maybe Igor, who's pulling a bit of a lead at the front, but he's going really well, and there's a lot of drivers now. If you sort of look at that, 5th to 10th, there's a fair few drivers there that are perhaps not drivers you'd expect.
So that is Jean-Luc Gantz, and I just caught out the tail of that picture there. Killian Ryan Meenan in the lead of what can only be described as a gaggle of Porsches coming through the track here at Catalunya. He's just broken free from Alexander Karsten and Chris Hook, who was up into around about 3rd place there on the start of the race, now power sliding his way around trying to defend that position from Gabriel Semeraro, who is dropped a little bit, and it's Luca Tavamari. There we go. All that time spent on pronunciation, I still managed to bodge that one up. Let's have a look at this then. Replay coming up, and I think this is going to be yep, saw that one coming. That was just completely lost on the slidey grass. Oh, and he's connected with a few other drivers there. Yeah, that is silly stuff, especially when the other drivers would have been warned with the yellow flag there. And it's not exactly an unsighted part of the track either, so yeah, it is what it is. Meanwhile, back to the battle for 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th place there.
Just list about 10 numbers for this one, they're all so close.
99, 7, 154, 66 and 29 all in the mix here as we see. I think that's Hook trying to go around the inside there. And Semeraro in the mix as well. My goodness me, a 6-car train going on right now. And I'm just trying to see who that is at the front that is dropping back. Just ahead of that car there. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, I think Karsten's tyres have well and truly burned out now, because there's still a lot of moisture here, and those tyres just can't display that moisture. Surely we're not going 3 wide.
That's a bit of a dive from Tavanari. He just about makes it stick.
What a cutback from Karsten. Did you see that? He went to the left-hand side of the corner. We saw Tavernari go to the inside. He then just swept right back on the cutback and took that position. That was stunning.
Yeah, there's a lot of tyre battles going on. It's incredible how they're managing to keep it safe here, especially with that changing in tyres. The 22 just, his tyres seem to come off and then go back, come back on. And look at that slide that they're doing through the left-hander there. I believe that was Karsten. The rear tyres must be so hot in that car now. With the wet tread, it's just causing the car to slide. But it almost seems like the sliding is helping him get around some of the turns.
Just about, and that's him now fighting with Gabriele Semeraro. There's contact between Tinko van der Velde as well. Tinko van der Velde shows him the door, contact, and off he goes. That is Weidelich, I think, that was caught up in that as well. But there goes Alexander Karsten. It was Weidelich that was caught up in that contact. You hate to see it, but yeah, that was always going to end in tears. Was Karsten, to give him his credit, he pushed those tyres to beyond what they were capable of, and my goodness me, did he make it look entertaining.
Yeah, that's what happens. It's not like I think what's happened is they've watched the F1 race at the weekend where we had the slick intermediates that were happening when they were burning off the tread, and it's just not quite a thing that happens in ACC. So I wonder if maybe they were hoping for that. And it does make sense, because the dry tyres around here in these conditions get so cold that they basically you can't get them in the operating window. But the problem is that there's not enough standing water to get the wet tyres cool enough. So you have this sort of weird band in time where one set of tyres doesn't work because they're cold, and one set doesn't work because they're hot. And unfortunately for Karsten, it seems like the hot wets are doing worse than the dry, the cold dry tyres. And both those cars, the 22 and 23, that we saw doing so well at the start of the race, both their tyres, I assume they must have burned them off now. Karsten's in the pits, presumably going to retire, I would assume, given the length of the race. But the 23 is all the way at the back of the field as well. So it's been rough for both those drivers. They made the bold decision to go on to wet in the nicest way possible. I think it was a very good decision, given the fact that it's only getting drier. I'm really not sure why they did it, but they tried. I can only respect it. Sometimes when you're in that midfield, you have to sort of do what everyone else is not doing. It's something we see, I think, in real life a lot, where if you think you don't quite have the pace to do it, in the same car with the same tires and so on, you try and bridge that gap by doing something different.
Well, I was away to jump in with a comment about the race leaders, but Niels van der Kakelt there gets a 15-second penalty added to his time. There we go, that's the contact with the number 22. Goes on to that green stuff, fires into the number 29 of Weidlich, but Weidlich stays on the track there. Now, the gap between your race leader, Yegor Ogorodnikov, and Joe McCauley was 2.7 seconds. That was being the word. It's now down to just 1.3 seconds, and it seems to be coming down every single lap. So Joe, definitely starting to catch up on your race leader. But there is a huge little shock there. Niels van der Kakelt, 15 seconds is going to be added on as a time penalty for him, and I can only presume that is for track limits.
I think he made some contact. I can't remember. Wasn't he involved in a small incident towards the start of the race? Oh, he was the guy that hit Samir, wasn't he?
Samir, right.
He was the guy that spun Samir. So I assume it must be for that rather than track limits, because normally track limits is a drive-through. So yeah, so it is for the incident with Samir that he's got the 15-second time penalty, and that, we were saying at the start of the day, is Joe McCauley, Niels van der Kakelt, and Amir Hosseini, who are tied. You need to remember that, tied for first place in the championship, and they're currently second, third, and fourth. But that 15 seconds right now would take him from fourth to about 15th. So it's going to pull him so far back in that championship fight if he can't find a way to pull a gap. And I think something that we've seen consistently in these cars, in the Porsche Cup series, both in real life and in the Sim Grid Academy Cup, is that you can't pull gaps. It just does not happen. You can get a couple seconds, but you're not pulling a 10-15 second lead or something.
Yeah, and certainly not at the pace that they're going at right now, as we see the TF Racing 86 outfit of Manos Gerardis and David McKell behind him. David, you can see, like a lot of the other Porsches, really trying to push the car to its limit and finding that thing sliding very, very easy.
And to be honest, you probably want to slide the car right now if you're on dry tyres, because you can't get any temperature in by driving carefully. If you can get the rear end sliding a little bit without losing time, you're going to push some heat into the tyre, as you sort of pull apart the tread. And it might almost make the car faster on the track. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if your car's sliding around right now. You just have to make sure you're not losing time doing it.
So in that case then, Luke, it may be the case that you have to drive aggressively then, and that if you do drive tentatively and if you do drive carefully, the tyres are going to get even more cold and you're going to come into problems.
I think it's just about identifying which corners you can do that, because there are certain corners where the exit's not that important in terms of the amount of pace you need to carry out the corner. There's not a big straight after it. You can't really lose time there. And those kind of corners, maybe you want to get sliding a bit more. Yeah, but in terms of those corners that exit onto straights, even if they're not long straights, just those kind of corners, you don't want to compromise your exit at all, even if it means having slightly colder tyres. So it's very important that you identify where you can do that and where you just need to drive. Sorry, and that is maybe a little bit too much of a drift there from Gerardis, as he gets his car very sideways in the left-hander.
Fastest lap of the race, 1:51.240 for Joe McCauley in second place. That last lap round, 3 tenths faster than your race leader, Yegor Ogorodnikov. The gap now down to just 7 tenths of a second. We have got a battle for the lead going on right now with just 25 minutes left to go out of the regulation 45 here, round 3 of the Sim Grid Academy Cup, powered by Trackworks and also in association with Coach Dave Academy and Thrustmaster. It's David Christie and Luke Rogers taking you through the action here tonight. 4 tenths of a second now, another 3 tenths taken out from Joe McCauley, and this is a straight out slobber knocker then for the championship points. And Igor Ogorodnikov was looking so good for taking a big hefty amount of points right now, and he's going to be having to work for them now with Joe McCauley right there in second place.
And just watching, you can see that Joe's car just seems so much faster right now. It's especially on corner entry, right, in the braking zones and in just the first part of the corner. You see how much he closes in under the brakes, and he's just able to get that traction and just keep that gap on the corner exit. So right now it seems like maybe Igor's been a little bit more tentative on the in the braking zones, or he's braking like the track's a little bit damper than it is.
Oh!
And he's also got a 5-second penalty for that contact we saw with Amir Hosseini. So, already Joe's technically in the lead. He's a driver that is, he's been second place in both races, and it looks like now he's going to take that first place.
Now, see, if I was Igor having that time penalty, I would let Joe go and draft Joe, knowing that he is, rather than risking any potential contact. I personally, for me as a driver, I couldn't hold on to that position for another 23 minutes. Oh, and look at that wonderful camera work from Mike out. Simply race side by side through the chicane. And there we go, Joe McCauley trying to take lead. There's contact, there's a bit of door rubbing and door banging. What incredible respectful racing from these two drivers here. Igor Ogorodnikov holds on to the lead from Joe McCauley. And Joe's going to try and fight it up the inside as well. But that one belongs to Joe, Igor, excuse me. Wow, what a battle there, but the big thing is that now draws Amir Hosseini even closer now. He was 2.8 seconds at the end of that last lap. It's now just 1.7, so this could be a three-way battle for the lead within laps.
And already what that means is Igor's down to third place, so the more he has this battle with Joe McCauley, the further he's going to fall back, and it might actually be a risk here where it brings Gans in as well and puts him down to fourth with that time penalty. So he has to be so careful, about how much time he loses taking this battle. And finally, Joe's gets it done, gets through, and you have to think he's going to pull ahead. And now we look at the championship and we look at the fact that Amir Hosseini's coming back and catching back up. Can Joe pull a lead, or is Amir going to catch him as well?
Wow, that is huge stuff. I don't think Amir was on Joe's pace at all. I think Joe was held up because he was trying to get past Igor there, and we can see their confirmation of the number 57 car, that's De Havilland, getting penalised for that contact on David Brivio, and with him being a game developer, he's lucky he's not got the ban hammer.
just whipping out the extra hard penalty for anyone who touches you in a race.
Permanently bans.
You overtook me?
Oh, that's a lot of incidents involving the 999. That's the same one there. And the number 49 and the 47. That was Niels van der Kekel. And that was the incident, as you rightly pointed out there, Luke, on Samir Ibrahimi. Back with your race lead then. Joe McCauley just ahead of Igor Ogorodnikov, and look, I think that is Amir Hosseini falling back a little bit now. It was 1.5 seconds. I think that's now potentially maybe catch up Igor, but yeah, I think he's going to have his work cut out because Igor now is going to sit in that draft of Joe and try and catch him up.
And I wondered how much of the sort of the pace differential at the front is down to the way they have their tyres right now, because something that you always try and do in these sort of damp to dry transitions is you set your car up for a certain point in it, because especially with tyre pressures, right? Once the track's dry, if your tyre pressures are too high because you're trying to keep your tyres hot during the wet conditions, then your tyres are going to overheat and you're going to lose a lot of pace. But if you kept them too cold, it can actually help when it comes to sort of this stage and when the track properly dries out, that eventually get to a point where the tyres come up to temperature. So it's I think what we're seeing here is that maybe Igor and Amir have a little bit tyres for different stages in the race. I think Igor's tyres were sort of set up for the start of the race. It kind of feels like maybe Amir's set up towards the end of the race because he's slowly picking up his pace, and Joe's sort of hit that sort of stage in the race where the tyres are working nicely for him, and that's when he can pull a lead. But he needs to pull a lead, because if Amir's tyres are set up for when it properly dries out, he might come back in it.
That's a very good point. We'll have a look at what Igor can do this last in terms of lap time this lap round. It was a 1:53 that he put in last time, and it was a 1:52.3 for Amir Hosseini. I think you're right. I think Igor's tyres are starting to cook, because Amir now just 0.7 of a second behind him there, and Amir might still be within shouting distance of Joe McCauley, but I've got to be honest, I think with the gap at 2.5 seconds, Joe might start to pull the pin and think that that's him away. Tinko van der Velde there down into 10th place. We saw Tinko Further up, Tinkle, I believe, was up in about 5th or 6th place about 10 laps ago. Luca Tavernari just behind Chris Hook there in the Renvelten Porsche, and Niels van der Kekelt. I was expecting to see Niels much further up the grid this time round, but it's just not been his race.
And you also have to factor in that 15-second penalty. He's going to be outside the top 15 at this rate. And given the fact that Amir Hosseini and Joe McCauley are right at the front of the field, that might pull him all the way out of the championship implications, because what we've seen so far is that we have these 3 drivers that are always at the front. And as soon as one of those drivers has that bad race, because the other 2 are going to be so consistent, you can't really, you can't really do anything in terms of in the final 2 races. Even if you win both of them, if either Joe or Hamir just finishes in the podium for the other, finish 2nd or 3rd in both of them, the gap's going to be so big that you won't be able to catch them. So it's really rough for Niels in terms of the championship, and he's going to have to hope now that either Amir or Joe or both of them has some issues over this race and the next 2. Otherwise, I think his championship run might be done.
Well, we could see that unfold right now, because that was Amir Hosseini right on the back bumper of Igor Ogorodnikov. We're back with, this is Niels van der Kekelt. He's done, I think that's Luca Tavernari behind him, and then he has got Chris Hook to get as well. But back with the battle for 2nd and 3rd place then, and that was easy pickings there for Amir Hosseini. While it was picture in picture, has they moved on, and no issues whatsoever taking that 2nd place. He made that look so straightforward, Luke.
Yeah, it's not something to do easily in these conditions, because although there's only about 10% track dampness right now, that's in terms of how the game calculates it, it's only about 10% wet. That 10% is concentrated in the areas that the cars aren't driving on. So as soon as you go offline to try and make this overtake, suddenly you've got a car that's slippy, you've got a car that doesn't quite work as well on the brakes, and your traction control's not quite stepping. The lack of traction control, is making it scary for those positions. So to make moves done so smoothly, it's quite an impressive feat in these conditions.
So, certainly is. So just over 16 minutes left to go in the race then. We're back watching the number 47 car of Niels van der Kekelt, joint leader in the championship so far, as the Sideworks Motorsports car, the Sidemax Motorworks car is just behind Luca Tavernari. I thought he'd managed to get past him, but it wasn't. That was actually Tinko van der Velde fighting off Gabriel Semeraro earlier on. Oh, and that was very deep there from Niels van der Kekelt. And he's really hustling that car, isn't he?
It's all over the place trying to get it working. And right now it's just not. I think it's the best way to put it. It's not quite happening for some of these drivers. But I want to see Amir catch up to Joe here, because it's a 3-second gap. I want to see a fight for the lead, especially between these championship contenders. They're 2 drivers that I think are desperate for the win. But Joe especially, given the fact he's come 2nd twice now, I think he has to hold on to this. He has to show that he can win these races, and show that this is his championship to take, because he will take the championship lead by winning. But I don't think Amir wants that to happen. I think we're going to see a fight between them, because it definitely feels like now that Amir's got past Igor, if he can start to push forward, there's more than enough time with 15 minutes to go.
That's a great point. I just don't think Amir Hosseini has got the pace to do it. That's another 4/10 that he's dropped from Joe McCauley there. Joe McCauley very close to the pace of the fastest lap there. He did a 1:51.276, and the fastest lap so far is a 1:51.240. So that is blistering pace from Joe McCauley, and he is really laying the gauntlet right down, as is Niels van der Kekelt, trying desperately to catch back up to the back of Luca Tavernari. Oh my goodness, huge moment, locks up the brakes, goes straight on into turn 1, and that has cost Niels van der Kekelt dearly, and that is going to drop him down potentially into 10th place there. It has, because there is Gabriel Semeraro there, as well as Tinko van der Velde. I think that was Tinko van der Velde running very wide. It is. So Niels van der Kekelt and Tinko van der Velde almost side by side, but it's Nico van der Kekelt moving up into P8 there. So the places return to as they were, and we get to breathe a sigh of relief here in the Collins block, please.
Yeah, that moment for Niels van der Koekel could have been a lot worse than it was. All he did was lose a little bit of time in the end, but so close to ramming straight into a driver. And now a bit of side-by-side action as we go into the middle sector of the track here. And based on what we've seen earlier, I'm a little bit nervous, for instance, but what a move there to get inside.
Gabriel Semeraro take a bounce on. That was wonderful up the inside there of Tinko van der Velde. Tinko's going to try and get right back on the outside, but he's going to have to watch because there's Handler on the outside as well. I believe that's Sebastian Handler. Tries to do him on the inside of that corner as well. It's going to happen. Tinko van der Velde needs to call the police because he's just been absolutely mugged right now. 2 places lost in the space of 3 separate corners. He manages to hold on to that one, but Gabriel Semeraro, my goodness, the cojones on that young man. Absolutely awesome move there, and it is all kicking off down the field.
It's all so tight through here as we have this sort of train behind Niels van der Koekel, and it's getting so close and so leery. And we see a little bit of bumping coming on out of the corner, a little bit of a bump and run from the purple car there of Sebastian Handler. He gets to the outside here of Tinko van der Velde as Van der Velde defends it. They're going to go 3 wide to turn 1.
I don't know what to say, mate. I don't know what to say. Oh my goodness me, what a move! There's carnage behind, and was that? It wasn't Van der Velde. It was a Handler that just absolutely flew up the inside there and just went past 3 different cars as Semeraro, Van der Velde, and it was so Semeraro and hang on a minute, Samir Ibrahimi is up into 11th place. Are you having a laugh? What a recovery drive from him.
We said he had the pace to get to the front of the field, and that little spin that Niels van der Koekel caused, we have to say, I mean, it looks like Samir might get him on pace alone. Still, a catch back up and overtake him. He doesn't need the 15-second penalty to get back ahead of Niels. He's not far off now. He's part of this train, and he's slowly working his way through. And with 10 minutes left to go, he could get even further because the gaps ahead are not that big.
Well, he's got to dispatch Semeraro and Handler first as Ibrahimi goes to the outside, thinks better of it, tries to get the cutback, a little bit of contact there, no harm, no foul, and Samir very patiently trying to wait and make his way past, get the traction where he can out of that Porsche 991 Cup car. And this is a thrilling end to our 3rd race of the season here at the SimGrid Academy Cup. And oh, that's a huge mistake there from Semeraro. Something had to give, and he's going down. David McKell takes advantage of that as well, and Tinko van der Velde fancies his chances at getting back up into P12 as well. But that unleashes Samir Ibrahimi, and now it's just Handler, and then it's on to the back of Niels van der Koekel.
I'm a little bit nervous when Samir catches him. What's going to happen? Because you have to expect that he's going to be quite forceful as he tries to make a move work. It's been mightily impressive to already be the top 10.
Bit in Days of Thunder. Remember me? I love it. 10 minutes left to go then in race number 3. And your leader Joe McCauley looking very comfortable, 2.9 seconds up in the lead as we see Gabriel Semeraro. I think his tyres are calling for mercy right now because he's having real trouble staying on the black stuff in that car. Back to your race leader though, Joe McCauley in the lead, 3.3 seconds ahead of Amir Hosseini. It's Yegor Ogorodnikov as we see, that was Marco Girardis, I think it was, going very wide at the corner there. Yegor Ogorodnikov in 3rd place. It's Gianluca Gantz in 4th with Killian Ryan currently in 5th place. Chris Hook in 6th place. It's Luca Tavernari in 7th, and then Niels van der Koekel in 8th place. We've got Handler in 9th, and Samir Ibrahimi in the awesome recovery drive into the top 10.
We said that it was going to be hard for Igor to pull that gap
Last time
and manage that 5 seconds, but we've got a 10-second gap now between 3rd and 4th. So, as you said, with 10 minutes to go, the sort of 4th and below, I think is all up in the air because we see those small gaps, but we sort of know what the top 3 is going to be now.
I think we do. I think it's set in stone right now, and I'm going to apologise for trying to talk all over the top of you there, Luke. I accidentally brushed my volume dial and turned it all the way down there, and wondered why I turned it up. And yeah, sorry, it's very good.
No problem.
Back to fourth and fifth, though. What a race we've got going on between Gianluca Gantz and Kilian Ryan Meenan. We see both of these two in the endurance races, and it's great to see them in battle in the Academy Cup cars. And I've got to be honest, I do fancy Kilian Ryan Meenan's chances on this one. He's looking very, very fast in that car, Luke.
Yeah, and it just feels like Gantz's tyres, or at least his car's just not quite working anymore, because he's falling off so fast with the cars behind. And really, he's bringing the cars behind Ryan Meenan into this. So, Chris Hook is starting to close that gap as well. So there's a potential here that he could fall even further back with 8 minutes to go. But I do think for sure that Kilian's going to take this position from him at some point. But these cars are notoriously hard to pass in, and if he's faster in the wrong places, it's going to be very difficult. Because the one thing with what tends to happen with these cars is there's a certain sector where you're faster in, and if that sector's not got an overtaking position, it becomes very difficult to make anything work. But it looks like he's going to go for it on the outside here. He can't quite get alongside, but he's trying to find it and make it work as Kilian looks for the gap. And you have to think it's a question of when, not if, right now.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on here as we jump to a replay here of the 3 wide moment down into the corner. Now this from Handler, that was absolutely inspired. I'm sorry, but that looks even better from that helicopter angle there. The insight that he had to just let off the brakes and just fire it up the inside there and let everybody into their own crashes and their own devices there was just awesome. So Handler up into P9 here, but we're back watching Gianluca Gantz trying desperately to hold on to Kilian Ryan Meenan. Tries to fire up the inside into turn 1. Oh, beautiful move from Kilian Ryan Meenan. There's contact, and that didn't need to happen. I think the move was already there. And to be honest, again, from my point of view as a humble commentator, Gianluca Gantz kind of forced that issue there. I think that Kilian Ryan Meenan was already up. However, from another angle, it might have looked like Kilian Ryan Meenan was sliding out there. This is the earlier moments we saw going very, very wide. Yep. The number 86.
Just a little bit wide, not quite the optimal line. It's a bit of a rally GT moment there, I think more than a GT Cup. But going back to that Gantz and Ryan Meenan, it kind of felt like Kilian had got alongside and Gantz sort of turned in as if he wasn't there, or maybe expecting him to take more curb than he did. But yeah, I think no harm done. It's a bit of door bashing. I think it's probably going to end up with Kilian getting the move done anyway. But what has happened because of that bit of contact, is that Chris Hook has got what was nearly a 3-second gap to a 1.2. So what becomes what was a 2-second 2-car battle for fourth place suddenly becomes 3.
Whew, I need to take a deep breath after this one, because we've got an absolute barnstormer of 5-minute finish coming up right now as we see Gianluca Gantz all over the back of Kilian Ryan Meenan all over the back of Gianluca Gantz right now, and Chris Hook has just absolutely latched himself onto the back of that group, and here comes Luca Tavernari as well. And also you will have to cut away at some point, because Amir Hosseini is getting caught hand over fist from Igor Ogorodnikov. That gap now back down to just 1.1 seconds.
And you have to think maybe Amir's made a small mistake there somewhere, but you have to remember as well that 5-second gap means that even if Igor gets ahead, it's going to be pretty much impossible to bridge that 5-second gap in, with the 5 minutes left. We've got about 3, maybe 4 laps, left of the race. But here's that move again. It felt like to me that the red card got alongside and the contact was made by Gantz more than Ryan Meenan. But yeah, intrigued to see his second perspective.
Yeah, see, for me, again, just as a commentator, and we have no input on race control, so we just get to be bystanders. For me, Gianluca didn't have to turn in. He obviously wanted to keep that place, but by which point Kilian Ryan Meenan was already side by side, and Kilian Ryan Meenan is again side by side, dives up the inside there, and surely this is going to be the move done. But Gianluca Gantz is trying to force the issue here, keeps the foot in. Oh wow, what a defence there from Gianluca Gantz. And here comes Chris Hook to play as well. So we have now got a 3-car battle for P4 right now, and it could be that Luca Tavernari gets to join in on the party as well. 4 minutes left to go, and the gap between second and third place is now down to just 0.6 of a second. The track is becoming faster as all of the cars now, almost all of the cars into the 151s, and there goes Chris Hook trying to go right the outside of Killian Ryan Meenan, so now he's got to watch his behind as well, and that allows Jean-Luc Gantz a bit of breathing room as we see Chris Hook trying to fire that car up the inside there. It's just not going to happen. That is the battle for P9 right now. That is Handler and Ibrahimi, and is that's never Niels van der Kukelt. Surely that's not a 3-way battle right now for 8th place.
And one thing we missed while we were watching those battles is Igor Rodikov's back in 2nd place. I mean, it's in 3rd overall because of that gap, but if Amir's car is falling off as much as maybe, how quickly he's pulled the 2nd gap is suggesting, there's the potential that he could pull a 5-second gap, but it seems like for now Amir is holding on. So whether he's made a mistake somewhere, and that's why he's lost the position, I'm not sure. But they're right on top of each other, and if Ogorodnikov can find 5 seconds of pace compared to Hosseini, there's a potential that he can hold on to 2nd here.
I'm almost completely lost where to look as the time penalties come flying in right now. In their main screen top left, you can see the battle for 5th place here. 4th place is Jean-Luc Gantz just ahead in the green car, and we can see trying to hold on to 5th place is Killian Ryan Meenan, who did have the pace but is now getting caught hand over fist from Chris Hook in 6th place there. It's surely going to be a matter of when. But in the picture in the bottom right, you can see the stunning battle going on, and that is between Niels van der Kukelt, I believe that's Sebastian Handler, and Samir Ibrahimi. Wow, this is just awesome stuff, Luke, and I never expected to see this in the final 2 minutes.
I don't think it's going to stop over these last 2 minutes. Samir is desperately trying to make it up, but what we're seeing right now is that Ryan Meenan, he was trying to make that overtake work on the 12 car of Gantz, and suddenly his pace has just gone. Ever since that little bit of side-by-side contact that's happened, he's looking in his mirrors more than his front windshield as Chris Hook's looking for the top 5 finish. And it's also bringing Tavernari in. It's such a consistent thing we see where you get these little battles that are happening. You use so much time having to defend in these cars, and it always brings the car behind into the fight. That's why we see these big stacks form of 4, 5, 6 cars battling for one spot. And with a couple laps to go, I believe we're going to have 2 more laps. There's a potential here that we could see a lot of change for that sort of 5th, 6th, 7th battle.
This is just absolute craziness going on right now. This is the battle then for 8th, 9th, 10th, and we see Sebastian Handler trying desperately to hold on to that position. That is David McKell just behind him as they go in towards turn 1. We've got 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go as it's Joe McCauley still in the lead from Yegor Ogorodnikov and Amir Hosseini. That is your top 3 at the moment for round 3. A fascinating race with so many implications for the championship. We will pick apart all of that in the post-race stuff just now, but we'll try and keep an eye on all of the action right now. Amir Hosseini is caught right back up to Yegor Ogorodnikov. That gap now just 0.2 of a second, so they're going to be nose to tail right now. We might be able to go and see that. It's now just 1/10 of a second, and Mr. Producer, if you would be so kind to show us the battle for 2nd and 3rd place just now. It is kind of irrelevant, I guess, purely because Yegor has got that 5-second penalty, but it is still awesome nonetheless. There we go, down in the bottom right, that is the battle for 2nd and 3rd place on paper, because of course Yegor has got that 5-second penalty, but I think Amir might try and force it. We've got 12 seconds left to go. Are we going to squeeze in one more lap? We do. We go across the line. So this is going to be the final lap for your race leader. Joe McCauley comes across the line, as does Yegor Ogorodnikov, and Amir Hosseini then up into 2nd place. We didn't actually see where that happened, so Amir just into the lead there. And I guess if I was Yegor, I wouldn't be pushing it too much, but have a look at that in the picture down below. This is the battle for 5th and 6th place as we see Chris Hook side by side trying to draft Killian Ryan Meenan on the run down to turn 1. Luke, this is going to be a nail-biting finish.
And I think you have to make the move work here, because you've got the move. He comes to the outside and he gets tapped. Ryan Meenan gives him a little tap. It's identical to what happened with Julian Gantz, but Hook takes the position off track. I wonder if he's going to try and give it back here, as obviously takes it off track, but whether he sees it as Ryan Meenan instigating the contact, which I think it was more a 50-50, if I'm honest. But I don't know what you do. There's going to be such a controversial moment here if Herc holds onto it and doesn't give the position back, because as Cormac was saying in the chat there, he makes the move off track. I guess there's the caveat of Ryan Meenan helping him off track, but you'd think you have to give the position back, but there's that risk that he gives the position back and Tavanari just overtakes him as well.
Well, your race leader then, Joe McCauley, has made it look so easy. Comes out of the second to last complex down into the chicane for the final time. It's been an amazing drive for Joe McCauley, for Coach Dave Academy in the number 18 Porsche. Rounds the last right-hander for the final time, but to take round number 3 of the Sim Grid Academy Cup, it's a win for Joe McCauley. Brilliant stuff there. Amir Hosseini is going to take second place there. It's going to be Igor Ogorodnikov into third place. And the battle's still going on further down the field. This is between Chris Hook, Kylie and Ryan Meenan, and Luca Tavernari. I can never get his name right. Poor Luca Tavernari. Yes. Thank you, producer. Yeah, that was an awesome stuff. Chris Hook finishes in 5th place there. Killian Ryan Meenan in 6th place. And Luca Tavernari in 7th place. Samir Ibrahimi. How did he finish in P8? How did he just get ahead of Niels van der Kikkel?
And we're going to have a bit of controversy, I think, with Chris Hook and co. With that last lap contact. It's going to be a bit controversial, I think, if the stewards have to have a look at that, because, I mean, by the rules, overtaking off track is not legal. But if they, if they say, well, actually, it was caused by Ryan Meenan going wide on the corner exit, then maybe they say actually it's okay. But it's going to be controversial, but it's been a pretty awesome battle. And in these conditions, I mean, we had quite a lot of incidents, but we didn't have those massive, like multi-car pileups that I think maybe I was a little bit scared of happening, especially on the first lap in these conditions.
Well,
most of the grid was well behaved, and it's been a pretty fun race to watch. And yeah, with that whole race, I mean, just looking throughout the field, how close it was. We had these battles. I think on the last lap we had 6 or 7 different battles happening all around the field. Even all the way back to about 20th place, there were side-by-side moments on the final lap. So it's been pretty awesome to see that everyone's getting involved and having those fair and mostly fair fights. But there's been, it's surprising how much contact there was towards the front of the field today. I think if you look at the first 2 weeks, that's not something we've had a lot of. We've not had that many big issues in terms of people on the podium having incidents together. But then you go sort of to this race, and whether it's condition caused, it was a lot more.
Now I'm just looking at that message that just popped up there, number 11, number 47. I need to find out what cars they were. Number 11, yeah, so that's Seb Handler that was involved in that one. I think that would have been another. Oh, that was Ivan Shermantinsky. How come I've got no problem pronouncing his name? But it's Ivan Shermantinsky getting a 5-second penalty for that incident. I'd be interested to see actually that last lap incident between Hook and YouTube chat, obviously, for understandable reasons, blowing up right now. What I would say as well is remember that Race Control are actively monitoring these races, and the results of any penalties and that don't immediately get announced, they get investigated. So, you might just have to hold on to hear about that.
And we are being told by our producer in the air that Chris Herker is going to lose that position that we saw him take on Ryan Meenan off track. So they're going to swap the drivers around in the standings. So no time penalties, which I think is fair. That is the only advantage he got from going off track like that. So I think it's a fair move to make, to give Ryan Meenan back that position that Chris, I think, pretty uncontroversially took illegally.
Yeah, and it's a difficult one as well because obviously, race control do have to monitor these things, and there's like billions of incidents going on at every single part of the race. There's such a hard race, but an awesome race nonetheless. And here we go there. As you say, yeah, like, there was nothing malicious in it. It was a carbon copy, like you said, Luke, of that incident from Gianluca that last lap round. But without further ado, you've got to go away, Luke, haven't you? So you're away to leave this. Right, yeah. Well, we will say our goodbyes then, Luke. Did you enjoy that race, buddy?
See, I usually don't quite like the track because I'm used to it I race it in prototypes quite often. The game that shall not be mentioned, and also watching it on sort of F1, it's never an amazing race. But when you throw the Porsche Cup cars around here, you give cars that basically have no downforce, that have no traction control, and then you put them in wet conditions. It creates such a fun environment to race in, and it really, I think, turns this from quite an average track into a track that is a lot of fun to watch. So it's been a really fun race. So many battles through the field that I enjoyed. So I guess thanks to all the drivers for putting on such a great show.
Yeah, it was an awesome race tonight. Race 3 in the bag. And Luke Rogers, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box tonight.
Good night.
So there we go. Luke Rogers, ladies and gentlemen, has left the building, and that leaves us just to do one thing, and that is have a chat with some drivers. That is what we are about to do just now. So let's bring in your race winner, a new championship leader. A very good evening to Joe McCauley.
Hello.
Hello there. How are you doing, sir? That was a wild race. But firstly, let it sink in. You're in the lead of the championship. How does that sound?
Finally. After 2 second places.
Always the bridesmaids.
I know. I thought I was going to come second in that race as well until I saw Ogorodnikov was going slow and got a penalty.
So talk us through that race, because the start was just beyond words.
Yeah. Somehow I managed to get a really good start. I think it's the best one I've had yet, and then we got alongside I think it was Hosseini in P2 going into turn 1, and him and P1 both went deep, but I think the guy that was P3, I think it was Gans, I think he managed to hold it on the inside, and we just touched doors, so we kind of held place at the start, and then I think there was a bit of contact on turn 4, and then I just kind of worked my way forward from there.
It's been a really solid start to the season so far for you, Joe. 2 second places, and obviously Niels van der Kekelt having a very different race this time out, a very difficult race, and Amir Hosseini there, he would have been battling, but lost out towards the end there. What does that mean going through towards the final 2 rounds, with obviously the next round at Spa and at Monza? Are those tracks that you like?
Definitely. I wouldn't mind these conditions again. Since I'm Scottish, I'm kind of used to this.
We are. It comes second nature to us, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's just like breathing. I wouldn't mind the same conditions again, to be honest.
So many comments, so little time. So what's the game plan going to be going forward in terms of going to Spa? Are you going to just be going all out for the win, or are you going to be looking for points?
Well, with the way the leagues went this season, I might as well not go for pole, because I keep coming second if I get pole. So I'm probably... So
what you're saying is it's jinxed.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick with P4 in quali and see what happens at the start. Hopefully.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Joe, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Best of luck for the rest of the season, and congratulations on your race win.
Thanks very much. See you later.
There we go. So Joe McCauley, your race winner there, and let's go and see who else we have. Let's go and have a chat with Dave McKell, who he had an interesting race. He was caught up in the midfield battles all the way through, and kind of got a grandstand seat for everything that was going on. So Dave McKell, it was an okay night for yourself, but you got to spectate a lot of the action there.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the question, actually.
I was saying, what was it like getting to watch all of the action unfold in front of you?
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, on the start, I just wanted to keep out of trouble, stay safe, because it was super slippery. And yeah, I actually survived the start quite good. I was quite happy with that. So yeah, it was awesome.
With all of the drama that was going on around, was that your main focus, was just to survive?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, people fighting, it was difficult to overtake. You can't really go offline. And so I thought, okay, maybe people crash. And so just stay out of trouble and yeah, watch what happens. Sadly, I don't know which lap it was, I got pushed wide a bit out of turn 2 and I spun. So yeah, that tactic ruined a bit, but still, yeah, I just wanted to keep out of trouble today.
And with the final 2 rounds coming up, and you know, with yourself in the standings, it's been a difficult season for you so far. You came into this round 27th after having a DNF last time at Zandvoort. What are you hoping to get out of the season?
Yeah, actually, I mean, today I've seen there have been some penalties, so I got a top 10 finish today. That's cool. And yeah, I'm just hoping to be able to push in the remaining 2 races. I mean, the podium always is the goal for the race, and yeah, just get as many points as possible in the end.
Excellent. Well, best of luck for the remaining 2 rounds, Dave, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Bye. Till next week.
Awesome stuff. Right, let's go and have a look at some other folk we can go and have a chat with. Let's have a word with, I believe we've got Dizzy Doodle himself, Alexis Pirali, in the green room waiting to get a chat just now. Alexis, a very, very good evening to you.
Thank you very much.
Now, you were a gentleman we didn't really see a lot of tonight. You went into tonight 33rd in the championship after a 30th position finish at Silverstone and not able to make last week at Zandvoort. Talk us how the race went for yourself tonight.
Pretty well. Conditions were quite tricky. In qualifying, my setup wasn't on point. I think I could have easily qualified near 20th if I had the right PSI, but I was running way too cold and I was way too committed. It was way too late into the qualifying to do anything. So strategy was, you know, go from the back, so last, and you know, just pick up the places, people spinning, and yeah, these conditions I've raced in real life in karting with slicks, so you know, felt quite comfortable going into it, and managed to find myself 15th, following Lona. I think his name is like Martin, I'm not sure, but yeah, Lona, then spun, and then, you know, Ibrahimi was coming through, and a bunch of the pack who had incidents early in the race came through, and I got binned at one point, so yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was a fun race, really enjoyed it, and you know, I think going from endurance Saturday really, you know, helped prepare myself for the race.
But it's a world of difference, isn't it, from doing the endurance race where you've got the pressures of being in a team and keeping the car in one piece for your teammates to an all-out war for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've done sprint races in karting, and so I'm pretty used to being under pressure and everything. And I was running with my teammate James de Havilland. So I know he usually, if I follow him, pretty able to, like, you know, follow him through, but unfortunately I got spun. But the pressure was there. It was quite fun. I really enjoyed it, and with the split with endurance, I mean, straight from qualifying with the BOP and the Porsche, we knew we weren't going to be competitive, and that reflected the race. So, you know, it kind of made it a bit less stressful for today.
Yeah, understandable, Alexis. Well, thank you very much for taking part. We look forward to seeing you in the rest of the championship, and good luck in the remaining 2 rounds.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you for the great championship in the series.
There we go then. That is Alexis Pirali there. And I'm going to have a little party here. Now, I have got quite a privilege here in Discord. I'm going to peel back the curtain and let you into a little behind the scenes here. What happens is we've got a Discord channel where all of the drivers jump in and they go into a room called Waiting to Interview, and they all normally have their full name. Now, we've got one gentleman in there called JRD57. I'm going to take an educated guess that is James de Havilland there, because he is number 57, and it's got the same Discord picture in his Discord profile as he does on the thing. So, I could pretend that I'm really clever, but really I'm just taking an educated guess there. Let's bring James de Havilland in then, along with Sebastian Handler. Gentlemen, we'll make it a party. First off, James, we'll start with yourself. An unfortunate penalty towards the end there, but that wasn't too bad a race for yourself.
Not considering I was backwards twice in the first 2 or 3 laps.
That's fine. We won't even mention that. I wasn't going to unless you did.
No, the first spin was one of those where I ran in a bit hot into the chicane, bumped the guy in front of me, lifted to avoid bump passing, and then someone behind went for an opportunistic move into the right in the chicane and ended up just taking me out. So that was kind of a bit unfortunate. Second spin was just me trying to catch back up with everyone and lighting the rears. Yeah, no, it was a good race. At least the wheel didn't break. I'm counting every round where my gears continue to work beyond lap 1 as a success at this point after Silverstone. That was terrible.
James, what kind of wheel have you got, buddy?
It's a Fanatec Formula V2 on a club sport.
The reason I ask is, we're sponsored by Thrustmaster. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have happened if it was a Thrustmaster product.
You said that on
over at
stream as well.
Thrustmaster.com. Sorry. Anyway, shameless shilling aside, you were stuck in the mid-pack for the majority of the race, and all hell was breaking loose around you. How were you staying calm and composed?
To be honest, I think when you're coming through from being backwards twice, you're a lot calmer than everyone else because they hadn't spun. So they were all fighting for position, having been there the whole race. So by the time I came up to them, you're quicker and you can see they're all over the place. You just kind of wait. I know Alexis, him and 2 other cars all ran deep into turn 10, the F1 double left where the MotoGPs go straight on. And I was coming up behind and you could see what was going to happen. So I just braked early, cut underneath, and all 3 just ran wide for me and sort of let me through, basically. And to be honest, I think if you've had a terrible first lap, anything from there is kind of a benefit. So it's a lot easier to keep your head because you've already gotten through all of the terrible stuff when you are facing backwards. But no, it was a good race. I feel bad for, I don't know his surname, it began with a W. On my screen, it came up with a no contact thing, but I got a penalty for it. And I watched the replay back. And it's sort of like a hitbox connection where on mine, the car hasn't quite touched. But on his, it clearly has. And I tried a silly move, so I'm more than happy that the 5-second penalty, the only place I lost was to him. So I'm more than happy with that on the basis of I did spin him. I didn't mean to, but I did. So if the penalty only cost me the guy that I took out, then I'd say that's kind of karma sorted for the race. No, it was a good laugh. Wet's always fun. It's a good championship, though. I think everyone being in the same car really kind of shakes it up a bit because you can't go, I'm losing time because the car's not quick enough because someone's in a Mercedes or a Bentley and just chugging past you down the straight. If you cock up, it's your own fault. So forces the racing to be a bit closer, but it does mean you do have to go for a dive bomb if you see one because you're never going to get a run on someone in the same car, so you have to learn to kind of be the last of the late breakers. And I screwed that up, unfortunately, and got myself a penalty for it, but it all worked out in the end, so it was a good race.
And as for myself as a latecomer to the SimGrid community, the one thing that I've been blown away by is the level of respect that the drivers show each other on the track there. And does that bring you a little bit of comfort knowing that you can kind of trust the guys and girls that you're right next to on the track?
Yeah, it does normally. It also means if you do have contact with someone, as much as it annoys you at the time, when you watch the replay back, it's very rare someone's done something unsporting. And that kind of just means you can kind of calm yourself down. And I've done a few races with other leagues that are normally quite clean, but you'll do, say, a one-off 8-hour. We did one with Suzuka. I won't name who it was with, but it was a good event. But the first 3 laps, I think we'd ended up being fired into about 12 cars. The back 30 of the grid were all in the pits with repairs, and it kind of spooks you for the overtake. But everyone's fairly solid. And the only thing with sim racers, if you do touch them, they tend to say they get more whingy than the real life drivers do at times in terms of expecting penalties, but the racing's clean and it does mean you can you can go for a move that's a bit more 50-50, knowing the guy just won't turn across you out of spite. Like, he will leave you a bit of room, and in return, you tend to kind of not squeeze them on the exit. So keeps the racing fair, but it's just a fantastic event. It's really, really well run, and we've ended up paying for a custom livery that you're kindly showing on the screen specifically because the streaming you do, the racing, everything's worth it, to the point where you go, yeah, I may as well spend a tenner and get a nice custom livery to make myself feel happy when I watch the race back, even if you are trundling round in the lower back half of the grid.
And here was me thinking you were coming to chat to me because I was an amazing person to talk to.
Great commentary as well. Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good, James. Thank you very much for popping in tonight and for giving us that insight. Best of luck with the final 2 rounds, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
There we go then. And finally, he's been waiting so patiently, but a very, very good evening to Sebastian Handler.
Hello, very good evening, you guys too.
Sebastian, that was a very different race for yourself, wasn't it?
It was very intense, very exciting, awesome racing. Unfortunately, I don't know if the stream catched it, but I had a moment in the last chicane with Nils, unfortunately. But very, very epic racing all across the race. I started off really far back at P20, just like every race, because I'm too lazy to practice. But I got through the field very, very well in like lap 1 and the laps after that as well. Yeah, it was a very enjoyable race, awesome racing, good respect all over the track. Bit unlucky with the little small incident in the last chicane. Otherwise, I could have been all the way up to P8 or P9. Just P11 for now.
Yeah, and it's been a case of constant improvements for yourself, Sebastian, with the fact that, Silverstone, you were 24th, then at Zandvoort, you were 13th, and then tonight, it's an even better improvement, and it's going to put you potentially up into the top 15.
Sweet. Yeah, I guess I'll start practicing and actually get the top 15. Should definitely be possible. The rain... The conditions today definitely suited me. I like that stuff. But yeah, looking forward to doing even better the next rounds. Should definitely be possible if I actually put in some time.
So Spa and Monza coming up are your final races. What are your thoughts on those tracks, given that you're telling us you're going to practice, but whether you actually do... are those tracks that you feel happy enough with?
I'm very comfortable around Monza. We also had the qualification there anyway, so we all have like pretty good experience already. But yeah, I really like Monza. Spa will be very interesting with these cars. I hope it does not rain, because Spa, rain, and a cup car.
It's fine, mate. It's fine. What could go wrong?
I don't know. A lot of things can go sideways. Yeah, maybe some rain in Spa. It will suit me, but I think Spa will definitely be the weaker track for me.
Excellent. Well, we wish you all the very best of luck in the remaining 2 rounds, and look forward to seeing you next week, Sebastian.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to hearing you guys comment next week. Thanks for having me.
No problem, buddy. So there we go. That is Sebastian Handler, and that is us for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've had a brilliant evening. Remember to check out the trackworks.ca website for our title sponsor, the SimGrid Academy Cup. It's the Sprint Cup Round 1 on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Yours truly is going to be on the microphone again, I believe, if I check my diary correctly anyway. So we're going to be enjoying that. That is going to be an awesome competition as well. So make sure to join us in the same place as well. As I said, check out trackworks.ca, head over to the Thrustmaster website, and also remember the bulk deals that we've got going on Coach Dave Academy. You can save 20% on all of the bundles that are to do with the 991 Cup car and save yourself on some professionally made setups and get your race on that little bit faster. But that is it. That is all for tonight. Thank you very much to my co-commentator Luke Rogers. Thank you to our production team of Michael Hamlet, and the cameras provided by Mike Yao of Simply Race. We will see you again for the Academy Cup powered by Trackworks next week, but check us out for the Sprint Cup on Thursday night. In the meantime, this is David Christie signing off and saying take care.
So talking more about the load cell pedal then, Hunter, just explain to us what the main benefits would be for somebody that's not used any load cells before.
Well, I'm sure you can attest to it that it just feels like a more natural brake feel that you would feel in like a car or whatever you would drive on track. You just get more data inputs from a load cell to your sim of choice by ACC, Assetto, Corsa, iRacing, whatever. And that leads to a smoother and more consistent braking feel.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I'll sort of hold my hands up and say I was quite surprised with the fact that even with a basic load cell, you can sort of feel that the car doesn't lock up as much. It's not so stabby on the brake.